The story begins in a moment of pure agony and suffering. So he introduces himself as Amaike Leo, a classless rookie player on top of several bodies. The boy says that his team was completely annihilated, and he knows very well why. It turns out that suddenly countless red warning screens started appearing everywhere. With that, the boy with glasses was completely shocked, not understanding what was happening there. Soon after, he comes across a bizarre creature with several arms coming out of it. The system does not recognize the monster and alerts it as a threat of unknown identity. The narrative says that this encounter would change their destiny, as we see a city being attacked. Is explained that a game has merged with the real world, and now there are dungeons and players. The story then goes back 2 hours in time to an uninhabitable zone that is completely destroyed. There a group of explorers are hunting monsters, while the boss yells at them for bonuses. One of the guys yells at the young man with glasses not to fall behind, and he readily complies. After finishing the hunt, the group leader congratulates everyone for a job well done. At this point, the boss introduces himself as Luca, a B-rank jurist with a very arrogant air. Luca asks our protagonist what the current situation is, and he replies that it is ideal. The boy then shows a map and says that the area has weak monsters and many resources for them. With a smile on his face, Luca decides to go to the central area and clear the dungeon once and for all. This idea scares the boy with glasses, because he knows that going there is practically asking to die. But the blonde leader ignores his fear and orders the boy to guide them to the location immediately. Desperate Leo shouts that this is not a common dungeon, and with old information it is impossible to win. The young man tries to argue that they should collect data from the monsters first, but before he could finish his sentence, the boy was thrown back violently. Immediately, the protagonist is grabbed by the neck and begins to run out of air. The person responsible for this is Luca, who lifts him off the ground without any difficulty. With an evil look, the leader tells him to shut up and do his useless job. Unable to breathe properly, the boy with glasses begs for forgiveness in terror. And the blonde throws him to the ground, saying that he is only there because he is good at running away. The boy reluctantly agrees to go but plans to run away at the first chance. The boss then threatens him, saying that he is useless if he doesn't guide them to the center. With the sword at his neck, the boy is quick to say that he is not up to anything. Our protagonist's situation is not good at all, as the leader seems quite angry. Then, Luca looks at his hand with disgust, as if he had soiled himself by touching the boy. While the others laugh at him, Leo thinks he needs to find a way to escape from there. Without a choice, the group advances and finally arrives at the central area, all in ruins. The blonde looks around and comments that he doesn't see any difference from the previous area. Our hero thinks the leader is an idiot because it's a nest of monsters and plans to escape. Suddenly, a B-rank monster appears on top of a building, attracting attention. Then several other identical monsters appear, forming a gigantic horde. But the leader is not scared, and with a confident smile prepares a fire attack. He says they are just B-rank monsters, and throws a fireball for an easy victory. The attack impresses the boy, who recognizes the strength of a B-rank jurist almost at A level. With an envious look, he wishes he had the same power, so he wouldn't be treated like trash anymore. Unexpectedly, his detection ability activates, and a blue aura surrounds him, leaving him confused. Then, the young man feels that a very powerful monster is rapidly approaching the place. He tries to warn about the impending danger, but the leader ignores him for being a classless player. But before he could say anything else, the ground beneath his feet began to shake and crack. The other members of the group look at the cracks in the ground in fear, not understanding anything. Suddenly, the ground collapses completely, and everyone is thrown into the air amidst the debris. They fall into an underground cave, and the furious blonde accuses the boy of setting a trap. In the darkness, one of the explorers points to a frightening, shadowy creature. The protagonist panics because his detection ability has simply stopped working. Luca approaches the boy lying on the ground and says he will settle the score with him later. The creature then reveals itself and asks if the humans want to play with it in a sinister tone. A mission screen appears with the objective of eliminating the monster to obtain a secret treasure. With an evil smile, the leader prepares to turn the creature to ash with his fire. Observing the scene, our hero is shocked by the complete madness and arrogance of his boss. The fire attack seems to hit home, but the monster simply disappears at the last moment. The blonde says she is still nearby and orders everyone to be on alert for a new attack. Then the creature appears from the ceiling and advances against the group, calling everyone evil. Without hesitation, one of the warriors advances with his sword, shouting for no one to back down in the fight. The bizarre creature attacks the group with its arms and asks if they want to play a little. The monster moves with incredible speed and appears to be enjoying the massacre, even receiving a direct attack. The creature does not appear to feel any pain. In the blink of an eye, everyone is defeated, and the boy is shocked by the result. The boy tries to search for information about the monster, but the system has no data about him. Before he could react, the monster hits him with a powerful punch and throws him away. The young man hits a wall hard and falls to the ground completely exhausted. The creature then turns to the protagonist, who is the only one still conscious. With a scary look, the monster licks his finger and says he smells a familiar smell coming from it. This leaves our hero completely terrified, without understanding what she means by this. The creature approaches him and calls him daddy, leaving the boy even more confused. The boy with glasses is in total shock at the bizarre situation that is happening. In his mind, he denies the possibility of having a daughter that size, because it doesn't make sense. But the creature seems happy to have found him, and this makes the young man think of something. With a smile on his face, the protagonist realizes that he may have found a way out of this situation. The supposed daughter invites him to go home with a huge and scary mouth. The creature's hands begin to grab him, and he wonders how things got to this point. The boy tries to break free and shouts for her to listen to him and stop all this madness. But he is pulled into the creature's mouth and accepts that this will be his end. However, he ends up falling into a strange place and unlocks a secret guardian class. Suddenly, our protagonist opens his eyes, completely confused by the situation. He looks at his hand and wonders if he was devoured moments ago. Sitting on a sofa, the boy realizes with relief that he did not die and is in one piece. When he gets up, the young man recognizes the place is his old home from 10 years ago. On TV, a reporter announces that it is the 30th of January of the year 2100. With this, he understands that he went back in time 5 hours before the world changed forever. The boy then wonders if he has the ability to start his life over again. Super excited, the boy celebrates, because now he could have a perfect life. But his joy is short-lived as the bizarre creature appears right behind him, calling him. The monster says his stomach is empty, and the protagonist doesn't understand anything. Completely terrified, the boy cannot process her presence in his home. The alleged daughter says she smells her daddy and slowly approaches him. With drops of sweat running down his face, he realizes with dread that he is going to be devoured again. Then the monster girl picks him up and licks him, saying he tastes good. She holds it in her hand and asks what's for dinner, because Suzuko is hungry. The boy is paralyzed by her request and doesn't know how to react to this situation. In a panic, he runs and tells her to calm down, because he's going to prepare something to eat. Then the young man appears with a mountain of buckets of fried chicken for the girl. With a nervous smile, he says that all of this is for Suzuko, his supposed daughter. The monster girl is very happy and hugs him affectionately while looking at the food. The monster girl hugs him tightly and says she loves him very much, leaving him very scared. With a forced smile, the boy wonders if all of this is just a big hallucination. Then the supposed daughter begins to devour the pieces of chicken with incredible speed. She seems to be really enjoying the food and eats it all without stopping for a second. While she is distracted, the protagonist takes the opportunity to check his status screen To his surprise, he realizes that he now has a unique player class. His class is Dread Guardian, and he can keep monsters and acquire their skills. The boy is shocked to see that Suzuko is B rank even though she is in an imperfect form. With that, he wonders if with her help, he would be able to control other dungeon bosses. But a hunger alert appears, and the system warns that she can devour any living thing. The persistent hunger condition hits her, and the boy can't believe she still wants to eat. To calm her down, he decides to pet the giant monster girl's head. The young man tells Suzuko that sometimes you need to have a little patience in life. With a strange smile, he promises that he will let her eat as much as she wants later. His plan is simple: to act like a good father, so she can help him clear the dungeons. As he strokes her head, the girl seems to have a very unexpected reaction. The supposed daughter's expression changes, and the protagonist doesn't understand what happened. Suddenly, she becomes super happy and hugs him with absurd strength, promising to be good. The hug is so strong that the boy starts to run out of breath and asks her to let him go. Unexpectedly, a breaking news story on television catches their attention. The TV broadcast suddenly cuts off, and the protagonist is shocked by the interference. He desperately runs to the window to see what is happening outside. With an expression of dread, the boy realizes that the dungeons have appeared earlier than expected. In the sky, a giant green structure appears over the city, changing the entire future. Without warning, a green mass with multiple eyes appears inside your apartment. The system warns that the Black Forest has appeared, and the creature screams in a frightening way. The boy falls to the floor in terror as green smoke begins to fill the room. Seeing her daddy in danger, Suzuko gets angry and calls the creature a pest. With a furious look, the monster girl tells the green creature to leave immediately. She then attacks the massive eyes, and the system warns that it has been freed from control. The supposed daughter lifts him in the air with a victorious smile, saying that daddy is hers. Completely desperate, the boy screams for her to put him down immediately. The girl lets go of him and asks if it's time to eat, and he says he's going to prepare something. Now calmer, the giant asks her dad what that strange thing from before was. The young man touches his face, still feeling the effects of the attack, and wonders what that was. An alert warns you that the curse of the Black Forest has been activated, and its level has increased. He doesn't understand what the curse means, and a warning appears to explain the situation. If he doesn't clear the forest in 72 hours, he will be trapped there forever. Then green vines sprout from the ground and attack the two without any warning. But the monster girl is not scared and tears the vines apart with an evil smile. The system warns that Suzuko has acquired a new ability by consuming the plant monster. With a powerful punch to the ground, the girl completely destroys the remaining vines. The boy realizes that he can satisfy her hunger by feeding her other monsters, but he soon remembers the curse and that he needs to find a way to get out of there. The young man thinks that in his past life, he was in another city when it all began. The only difference is that now his supposed daughter is by his side to help him. The giant offers him a piece of monster, but the boy politely refuses. So he hypothesizes that the dungeon wants to eliminate Suzuko because she is a threat. And since he is her owner, the dungeon marked him with a curse to get rid of them both. Now the protagonist has 72 hours to escape or clear the dungeon completely. He wonders how the two of them alone could deal with an entire forest of monsters. Before he could think of a plan, a giant plant monster appears in front of him. The creature reveals itself to be the chief of the forest, and the boy is left in disbelief at his bad luck. But Suzuko activates her new ability and prepares to face the monster head-on. Several vines come out of his body and attack the forest boss with incredible force. She asks if daddy is okay, and he praises her for her good work in battle. The boy realizes that his supposed daughter absorbed the ability of the monster she ate. Suddenly, the vines begin to glow brightly, catching the young man's attention. He screams for her to get away from the light, but it's too late to prevent what's coming. A huge explosion occurs, destroying part of the building where they are. 24 hours pass and the city of Naruse has been taken over by giant trees. Amidst the chaos, a blonde man tells them not to be afraid because he knows the monster's weaknesses. He reveals himself as Luca, a beta tester, and orders everyone to follow his battle orders. But a surprise attack causes the crowd to panic and run for their lives. The blonde is shocked to see that the monster is a rank 2 Kyo, a strong creature. The huge green creature towers over him with a very menacing and dangerous look. People are terrified because this monster is unlike anything they have ever seen before. The leader tries to calm everyone down by saying that there is a way to resolve the situation. Then he screams to the heavens, calling for a player who has a combat class. Suddenly, a powerful beam of blue energy hits the creature head-on from above. The attack is so strong that it goes through the monster and destroys part of a building behind it. The person responsible for the attack is Hayashi Miki, an F-rank jurist with a blue staff. With a confident look, the girl says that defeating that monster was a piece of cake for her. The blonde takes the opportunity to say that if they follow his orders, victory is certain. People celebrate with relief and thank the girl for saving them all. But the lawyer thinks the leader is good at manipulating people because they have known each other for a day. Later, the girl is exhausted and cornered by monsters in a dark alley. Someone saves her and she asks who it is and why he helped her because she is very confused. The person responsible is Luca, who says he is gathering allies to clear the city's dungeon. With a smile, he introduces himself and invites her to become a heroine by his side. The lawyer doubts that a student can be a hero and knows that the dungeon will not be easy. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Suzuko is having fun jumping on a giant tree. The monster girl wants to play more, but the guy says he's had enough for today. He fears for his life with her jokes and hears Luca's voice in the distance. The protagonist recognizes the blonde leader from 10 years earlier when he was a rookie. With an evil smile, he thinks that joining him might be a good idea. Suddenly, the tree shakes, and several little green monsters start climbing up it. The giant gets excited about the food rising and says it looks delicious. The boy panics as he sees the horde of creatures climbing towards them. On the ground, people are startled to see that the giant tree is moving. The lawyer seems tired of the group's overreaction to everything that happens. The blonde leader realizes that the situation is not good and is on alert. Then he sees Miki in a dangerous position, shouts her name in concern. Luca tells the girl to run, but she stands there without understanding the reason for the scream. Our hero falls from the tree and wonders if he is still alive after the fall. A female voice calls him a brat while he is still on the ground. He fell on top of Miki, who held him with her power and told him to be quiet. The boy is embarrassed by the situation and tries to say it was an accident. The girl accuses him of cutting down the tree, but he denies it, saying it was a coincidence. Suddenly, Suzuko appears, picking him up, and Miki flies away from the impact. Suzuko emerges from the smoke and with a smile says she found him. The protagonist is relieved to see his daughter and calls out to her with a smile, but the lawyer stands in front of him, telling him to leave the monster with her. With a determined look, she says that heroes don't run away and will protect him. The boy tries to calm the situation by saying that everything is fine, but he is ignored. Then the heroine challenges the giant, who is completely confused by the attack. The young man realizes that the girl thinks Suzuko is an enemy monster. Without hesitation, Miki charges into combat with a powerful energy attack. The blue blast engulfs the monster girl in a vortex of magical power. However, Suzuko easily defends the blows with her many arms. Leo shouts desperately for the lawyer to be careful with her strength. An attack hits the giant, but she doesn't even seem to feel the blow she received. The heroine finds an opening in the defense and prepares a special attack. With a confident smile, she manages to hit the creature squarely. The blow throws her back and the giant asks if Daddy was worried. The boy ignores the question and runs towards the lawyer to help her. He is worried and hopes that the girl has not been hurt. Miki is passed out on the floor, but thankfully appears to be just unconscious. His daughter then asks if she can devour the girl, leaving the young man in panic. He forbids her and remembers that the lawyer is part of Luca's group. The young man thinks that, if he saves the lawyer, he can join Luca's group. But he knows the plan won't work if they find out about his daughter, so the protagonist asks Suzuko to hide for a while to help him. The monster girl doesn't understand why, and he explains that it's to find food. With a smile, he promises that, if she hides, well, he will give her something delicious. Excited by the promise, Suzuko agrees to hide and asks him to look for her. The curse mark on his body begins to slowly disappear into thin air. The boy realizes that the curse has weakened because his daughter has hidden herself. His plan is simpler: to hide Suzuko and have Luca find the boss. Miki wakes up a little confused and with a headache because of the blow. The protagonist helps her and pretends to be concerned about her well-being. The lawyer asks what happened, and he lies, saying that the monster ran away. She doesn't remember the events well, but accepts his explanation. The girl says it's dangerous there and invites him to go to a safe place. The boy celebrates silently because his plan is going as expected. He decides to use a false name and introduces himself to the lawyer as Himogen. When he shakes her hand, the giant appears and the boy is very surprised. The monster girl feels a familiar feeling coming from the heroine from before. Our hero notices his daughter's presence and tells her to follow him silently. Miki turns around and tells the boy not to separate so as not to get lost on the way. At night, the city remains under the control of giant trees and darkness. In a hideout, the blonde leader asks for a report on the search mission. One of the men says they are still looking for Miki and haven't found her. Furious, Luca shouts for them to hurry up, because without her the group would be annihilated. The others try to calm him down by saying they will find her anyway. The leader cares about the girl because her special ability is incredible. Unexpectedly, Miki arrives with our protagonist and says that they don't need to look anymore. With a smile, the lawyer greets her boss, who is surprised to see her. The blonde is very happy to see the girl safe and sound after her disappearance. With open arms, the leader welcomes the jurist back. Then he notices the boy next to her and asks if he is her younger brother. The girl says he saved her, and the young man introduces himself as Himogen. With a smile, the protagonist says he missed the blonde leader. The boy then asks to join the group and Luca accepts, shaking his hand. But the boss finds the boy's face suspicious and a little scary. With his eyes shining, he decides to use his ability to discover his identity. The system starts analyzing the young person, but he asks if he can help with anything. The leader says he likes his motivation, but the system fails to identify him. Surprised, Luca wonders why he can't see the boy's information. Numerous scan failure screens appear, leaving the boss very suspicious. With a sinister smile, Luca says he found a good job for the boy. The boss tries to scan the young man again, but the skill fails once again. With a headache, Luca wonders what the hell is going on with his powers. The giant appears and asks if he is okay while the boy tries to hide her. The leader falls to the ground scared and without understanding the reason for the sudden pain. Miki helps him up and asks what's wrong with him. The protagonist thanks Suzuko in his thoughts for scaring the boss. Suddenly, everyone hears a very loud noise coming from outside the place. A huge explosion happens very close to their hiding place in a building. The group goes out to see what happened and comes across the factory in flames. Luca doesn't understand how that could happen and is completely shocked. In the midst of the fire, one of the giant trees begins to move strangely. The giant asks if they should run away, but the boy says to wait a bit. His detection skill is active, and he senses that the monsters are agitated. The young man realizes that the cause of their agitation is the fire from the explosion. Then he shouts for everyone to hear what he has to say immediately. The boy orders the group to get away from the flames as quickly as possible. A rank 3 wood monster appears amidst the fire, surprising everyone. The fire creature has a demonic appearance and looks quite powerful. Luca is shocked to see such a strong monster appear out of nowhere in the middle of the city. The boss wonders how the boy knows so much, and if he is also a savior. Luca imagines the young man taking his place and stealing his fame and glory. Enviously, he thinks the boy plans to steal his savior bonus. The system offers a free item to new players during the protection period. The leader believes that there can only be one savior and that dungeon is his. He takes his sword and orders all his followers to begin the counterattack. But the fire monster attacks first and throws him away with an explosion. The force of the attack is so great that it causes a shock wave throughout the area. The lawyer says they can no longer count on Luca and that she is at her limit. Mickey hugs the boy from behind and asks him to get everyone out of there safely. The young man realizes that the curse is weakening, but the monster continues to evolve. The creature of wood and fire becomes even larger and more powerful than before. The lawyer shouts for the boy to hurry and run away, but he is knocked down. The protagonist says he can't run away because he needs to stay and fight the monster. Suzuko can't take it anymore and says she's going to devour all the monsters nearby. The giant's hands become sharp and ready to attack without mercy. The monster girl advances towards the enemies, screaming that she wants a snack. She attacks the fire monster with her claws, and a huge explosion happens. Miki recognizes the giant as the monster that attacked her earlier in the forest. Suzuko catches the flaming monster and devours it like a giant barbecue. The giant chews the fire monster like it was nothing, leaving only the bones behind. The boy complains that even in danger his daughter only thinks about food and the curse will return. Then he sees his synchronization skill that lets him copy skills for 20 minutes. The young man wonders if other monsters will call him daddy, but they are too dumb for that. In this, he has the idea that if he can control bosses, then maybe he can dominate the one in the forest. With that, the lawyer grabs him, telling him to run away, but the boy says that this is their chance. He says he will defeat the boss while the monsters are distracted in this risky gamble. The protagonist knows that the blonde leader must have the location of the dungeon's main monster. The girl warns that if the creatures evolve, they won't have a chance, and decides to look for the boss. Miki then picks him up and speeds away from that dangerous place. In the underground ruins of the city, a mysterious creature says he has finally found them. With a touch on his face, the plant creature also calls him daddy, making everything strange. The forest chief floats above several plants with eyes while giving a very sinister laugh. There, Luca's group has already found the boss, and the blonde seems very confident of certain victory. With an evil smile, he plans to defeat the boss alone to get all the reward. Suddenly, all the members of the group start screaming in pain and holding their heads. The leader doesn't understand anything and looks at his men, completely confused by the situation. With his eyes glowing green, his allies turn against him as if they were zombies. Even so, Luca tries to remain calm and asks that no one panic at this moment. A bonus screen appears and it says that the difficulty has just increased a little for the mission. One of the men points out his level class and asks if they have any chance against the creature. With a furious look, the blonde leader calls him useless for being only a level E. The blonde boss gets angry at being ordered around and eliminates one of his own men without hesitation. With this, the system informs that he has earned 1,000 points and the chance to get a job card. The other survivors surround him and ask in shock what he just did. He realizes that the bonus for eliminating an ally is 1,000 and the monsters is only 100. With an evil smile, the blonde leader decides he's going to score points with everyone there. Meanwhile, our protagonist arrives with the jurist at the battle site. They look around and realize that there was a great battle there. By the traces of destruction, the girl panics and says that the leader has completely gone crazy and they need to escape. Looking forward, they see the blonde on top of several bodies of his allies. The blonde boss holds one of the men by the collar with a very cold and distant look. With a smile on his face, he turns to the lawyer and says that she got it all wrong. The girl accuses him of going crazy and breaking their promise to clear the dungeon together. But the blonde defends himself, saying that it was they who went crazy because of the smell of flowers. The lawyer is confused and doesn't understand what the smell has to do with the situation. He explains that whoever breathes the smell becomes a servant of the boss, and that is why he had to eliminate them. Then the leader reveals that he is also a servant and hands over his sword to her so that she can eliminate him. In shock, the lawyer holds the sword and asks if they can't defeat the boss together. The blonde man grabs her, saying it's impossible, and the girl begs him not to give up the fight. The leader says that if she doesn't eliminate him, there is another way to solve everything. The lawyer asks what the solution is, and the blonde holds her tightly in his arms. With an evil smile, he raises his sword to attack the girl by surprise. Then he reveals that the other way is for him to eliminate the jurist right there. Without any mercy, the boss attacks the girl with his sword, right in the middle of her chest. He throws her to the ground and holds her with the sword, so she can no longer escape. The blonde insults her, saying that she is just an NPC and has no right to give advice. He says he saved her only because of her class, and now he's going to deliver the final blow. With a cruel look, the boss says she can fulfill one last role before dying. The blonde leader then activates the job card he had gotten earlier. The system asks if he wants to steal the class strength of the still-living girl. He celebrates because he got a level S work letter from the jurist. Suddenly, a voice calls out to the girl, and the blonde looks to the side in surprise. Our hero appears laughing and pretending he didn't understand anything that happened there. But the blonde says there's no point in pretending, and that he's a much better actor than the boy. The young man notices that the leader is acting strangely and asks him not to be tense. He feels bad for the lawyer, but decides he needs to get out of there as quickly as possible. But the blonde man surrounds him with blue energy and tells him he's not going anywhere. The boy gets stuck and wonders how the leader has a class if he had none. The blonde says he thought the young man wanted his place, but he didn't even know about the girl's skill. The protagonist is confused because he didn't know that the lawyer's skill was level S. The leader reveals that the dungeon has changed because the two are time travelers called saviors. The boy is shocked to learn that there are different types of travelers with different goals. He understands that if the blonde is one of those travelers, then everything makes sense now. The boss asks what his objective is, but the boy only thinks about buying time for his daughter to arrive. With a smile on his face, the young man decides to join in the leader's act to deceive him. He then salutes and takes the blame, saying that he was the one who changed the difficulty. The blonde leader likes the confession, and it seems like they are finally understanding each other. The guy says he infiltrated to change the difficulty and take the bonus for himself. The boss seems impressed and says that the young man's plan seems to be working very well. In thought, our hero realizes that the blonde believed everything and decides to continue the theater. He starts laughing and says the boss thank him for making the dungeon more exciting. The blonde agrees that it is intriguing and says that the mission bonus has already been changed by the system. The boy calls him an idiot in his mind, and the leader is distracted for a moment by the conversation. The lawyer, lying on the floor, accuses the two of being together in this madness and calls them insane. Furious at the interruption, the boss tells the girl to shut up and kicks her. The young man is surprised because even the lawyer took his work seriously and believed in him. The system then notifies you that the S-level legal work card has been successfully obtained. The lawyer is now on the floor without moving, and the boy is impressed by the power of a class. With the letter in hand, the blonde says that stealing from NPCs is easier than waiting to awaken a power. With a confident smile, the blonde boss asks if they should cooperate from now on, but before he could answer, the boy was surprised by monsters that emerged from the ground. The leader becomes furious and shouts, asking what the hell the young man did to summon the creatures. The monsters advance towards them, and the boy asks if the blonde wants to cooperate with him now. With a mocking smile, the protagonist says that it wasn't him who called the monsters there. The boss laughs and says that in the end, this is the best thing a child could come up with. Wrapped in his blue energy, he advances to attack the young man with a powerful punch. With a look of hatred, the leader says he would never work with someone like our hero. He hits the ground with a punch, and a large smoke screen rises in the place. From the middle of the smoke, the giant appears and grabs the blonde boss with one of her hands. The blonde screams for her to let him go because he is the savior and she can't do that. But the giant says she doesn't need a savior and our hero is quite satisfied. With an evil smile, the monster girl says she came to meet her dear daddy. The boss is shocked and asks if she is really the daughter of the young man who is there. The boy turns and looks at the leader with a look of mockery and superiority. With a smile and a thumbs up, he confirms that he is the father of the giant who captured him. The blonde panics and begs the young man to cooperate with him and let him go. But the giant says her daddy is not a child and prepares to attack the boss. In a smaller form, she sits on the young man's lap and asks if they can go to bed. The protagonist agrees but first asks his daughter to take care of the remaining monsters. With a smile, the giant agrees and begins to crush the little monsters as if they were toys. The boy then decides to run away from there, but first he goes to check on the lawyer, who is lying on the floor. Unexpectedly, the girl opens her eyes and seems to be slowly regaining consciousness. The young man doesn't understand anything and wonders what the hell happened for her to wake up. He looks at the sword stuck in her and doesn't understand how the jurist can still be alive. Suddenly, his daughter appears behind him and calls him daddy in a very calm voice. The giant then takes him in her hand and asks if they are done playing wrestling. Sleepy, she hugs him and promises that she will protect her daddy forever from all evil. The protagonist touches her face and calls her name, trying to understand the whole situation. The monster girl just sleeps on the ground, and the other monsters suddenly stop moving, lying on top of her. The boy realizes that even his curse has strangely disappeared. The mark on his arm that trapped him in the dungeon suddenly disappears completely into thin air. Then, the forest chief appears and says that she now understands why the giant was not affected. The young man recognizes the creature and without hesitation decides to activate his synchronization ability. The boss introduces herself, and the boy's skill turns him into a ghost for 20 minutes. With his new power, he moves away from his daughter, who continues to sleep peacefully on the floor. The boy thinks he can escape, but is worried about leaving his daughter behind alone. But the boss finds him easily and says that he has no way to escape her clutches. She reveals that all the plants in that place are her eyes and are watching her all the time. The creature says that the scent he breathed is also part of it and controls him from within. In his ghost form, the boy realizes that there is no way to escape that situation. The creature then caresses the giant's face and says that she is very beautiful when sleeping. Then the boss licks the monster girl and says she is very picky about her food. Our hero understands that the boss's real target was always his daughter and not him. The creature confirms that it ate the giant's eye and therefore needs to evolve into someone. The boy is confused by the revelation and wonders if this someone would be a human being. With a furious look, the boss tells him not to insult her master because he is different. She reveals that her master is actually the creator of all monsters, the god of creatures. The creature then accuses him of being an imposter for having only a single creature under his command. The young man is surprised that the boss somehow knows that he is a monster guardian. The boss says that the giant is her master's daughter, but still calls the boy daddy. With a smile, she accuses him of manipulating a monster and trying to imitate her true master. The protagonist then has an idea and says that the reason for being a guardian is different. With a smile, he says that it was actually for her food, and she just had to ask for it first. The creature praises him for his cleverness and offers him the chance to become his slave to survive. The boy starts laughing and says that the boss's proposal is really very good and tempting. But then he makes a gesture with his hand and says that he completely refuses her proposal. The forest chief giggles and licks her lips in a very creepy way. She then opens her tentacles and says that the young man has no choice in the situation. The protagonist is unfazed and maintains a very determined gaze towards the creature. With only 10 minutes left of his transformation, he tries to escape from that place. He thinks time is running out, and he needs a plan to get out of there soon. Then the boss orders her monsters to capture him alive to wake up the giant. Our hero becomes tense as the situation is getting more and more complicated for him. Surrounded by monsters, he wonders if there is any other way to escape. Suddenly, he sees the body of the blonde leader and remembers the lawyer's work letter. The boy then thinks that if the boss was able to use the letter, he must be able to too. Without hesitation, he runs to the body and takes the letter that was with the blonde leader. But the system warns that he cannot awaken the class, and the young man does not believe it. At this point, his ghost transformation time ends, and he returns to his normal form. Surrounded and powerless, he decides to activate his synchronization ability as a last chance. The system then shows the skills it can use with synchronization activated. With a furious look, his left eye turns red, and he activates the Eye of Truth. The boss realizes he's using Suzuko's power and doesn't seem to like it at all. With a red aura, the creature says that it will not allow him to use this ability. Our hero begins to feel a very strong headache because of the interference. The synchronization is cancelled, and the boss tells him to sleep and disappear into her memories. With his eyes shining with pain, the boy wonders if this is the boss's real form. The creature reveals itself to be a mass of tentacles and says that his body is now hers. A spiritual corruption alert appears, and he realizes that the dungeon is high level. He remembers that he died to Suzuko before and wonders if it will happen again. Suddenly, the young man finds himself floating in a complete, endless white void. He wakes up with different colored eyes and realizes he is still alive. The boy looks at the system screen and wonders where he ended up. Hearing a voice, he turns and sees a door where the mysterious sound came from. Without thinking twice, the boy decides to open the door to see what's on the other side. Inside, a figure stands among papers saying that it is his masterpiece. The boy scratches his head and wonders if this is some kind of projected memory. The voice continues speaking, and the boy is shocked by the words he is hearing. The figure stands up, and the young man thinks he looks like himself back then. A magic circle appears, and the man commands his great masterpiece to appear. With a bizarre smile, the scientist looks anxious, and the young man looks very apprehensive. A little girl with scars emerges from the circle and asks who she really is. The scientist then points to the girl and says that her name will be Suzuko. The little girl looks at him and repeats her new name with a very confused expression. The man extends his hand to the girl, and she accepts the gesture without hesitation. Then he hugs her affectionately and tells her to start calling him Daddy. The little girl then calls him Daddy with a very happy smile on her face. Monstrous visions of the girl appear, and the boy wonders if this is the real Suzuko. The young man then tries to calm down and realizes that he is seeing Suzuko's memories. Holding hands with the scientist, the boy realizes how different the little girl was. With a smile, the man says that she is his masterpiece and asks if she is ready. The girl is confused and asks what she should be ready for at that moment. With a heroic air, he says that she will help him save the world from destruction. Suddenly, the memory breaks into several fragments, and the boy is left without reaction. Lying on the ground, he wonders what the true objective of that mysterious man was. With a little smile, he understands that what he saw was just the beginning of the mystery. Looking at the door, he is sure that it is bait to catch him. His daughter appears in a small form and says she missed her daddy very much. Back in memory, the man says he has something new from his research to show. The scientist presents a flower in a container and says it is the whisper flower. The little girl and the boy look at the flower, and he recognizes the chief of the Black Forest. The scientist then says that something is missing for the flower to be perfect, like his daughter. The man thinks of a way to complete his creation with a smile on his face. At that, little Suzuko hugs him and offers to help with whatever is needed. She smiles and asks what she could do to help her daddy complete the flower. The young man finds the scene beautiful, but the scientist then asks him for the girl's power. The man says he can find someone else, but the girl is quick to say she will help. With an evil smile, the scientist says he wants a little thing she has at the moment. He then points to her face and asks the little girl to hand him her eye. Upon hearing this, our protagonist is completely shocked and unable to believe the man's cruelty. Without thinking twice, the girl obeys the order, and a terrible scene happens next. Suddenly, the boy feels an agonizing pain in his eye, which begins to glow red. With the eye in her hand, the little girl hands it to the scientist, as if it were nothing. All hurt, she offers her eye and asks if she was a good girl for doing that. Meanwhile, the young man falls to the ground screaming in pain because of what is happening. The scientist then praises her, saying that she is a good girl and he is happy with the help. Holding the eye, he tells the little girl to observe the power that was contained within it. Then the man throws the eye into the container and tells the flower to consume everything. With the power of the eye, the flower turns into a giant monster, and the scientist thanks the girl. The little girl is happy and tells the creature to grow up and become strong to help. The scientist says she'll be fine, and then he starts taking other parts of her, even without her limbs. The girl says she feels no pain and even loses her memories. The scene is so horrible that our protagonist starts laughing out of pure despair. Falling to the ground, he realizes that the girl was just used as food for the monsters. Little Suzuko then calls out for her daddy while she is on the floor all bruised. She asks where he is, and the boy finally comes to his senses and talks to his daughter. The little girl calls him daddy, and the boy is surprised by the situation. With a smile on her face, she is happy that he came to visit her in that place. But the scientist appears with several monsters and says he brought the family to see her. The bizarre creatures then advance towards the little girl without hesitating for a second. Surrounded, she asks if he doesn't need her anymore, and the man tells her to play. The scientist says she is beyond repair and asks for forgiveness as the monsters attack her. In agony, the girl screams in pain and begs her daddy not to abandon her there. The boy then starts laughing and tells her not to be afraid, because he also feels her pain. He reveals that she was deceived, and that both he and the scientist are fake daddies. With this, the synchronization rate with the eye of truth reaches 50%. His eyes glow with an intense red power, and he looks ready for a fight. The young man then promises that he will become her real daddy, and the chief of the forest appears. Back to reality, he faces his boss and calls her ugly with a smile on his face. The creature is shocked and asks how he managed to regain consciousness so quickly. Angrily, she says she will show him hell once more for his audacity. But the boy is not shaken and orders the creature to come at him with everything without fear. She attacks him with red energy and wonders how long he can hold out. The young man feels the pain but says it is nothing compared to his daughter's suffering. With a determined look, he endures the attack and says that it is nothing to him. Then the boy repeats the word synchronization, and his body begins to go through a change. The system warns that triple sync has been activated, and the boy says he is back. With an evil smile, he says that if the boss wants to eat his daughter, he will eat them all. He then asks if that isn't a fair exchange and moves into attack. Without any fear, the boy begins to eliminate all the monsters that appear in front of him. With a smile on his face, he rips off the head, one of the monsters, with his bare hands. Then the boy devours the monster and complains about the bad taste of that creature. The other monsters are frightened by his attitude and try to retreat in fear, but the young man doesn't give it a chance and continues to devour everyone without stopping for a second. Over time, his synchronization rate rises to 70%, and he becomes stronger. Dissatisfied, he asks the boss to send more monsters for him to eat. The creature asks if he really wants to be defeated, and he doesn't answer. Then she tells him to enter her memory and disappear from that place forever. But the boy tells his daughter not to be afraid, because he is now there to protect her. The girl calls him daddy and says his hug is very warm and comfortable. With a smile, the young man says that before he wasn't his father, but now he really is. The boss says that it is just a memory, but the boy ignores her and continues. The creature reveals that the memory was created by his will, and the young man will disappear there. The monster says that the will of a creature is like poison to humans. With synchronization at 90%, the boy doesn't seem to care about the warning. With several eyes on his face, he looks at the creature and says that his daughter saved him back to reality. The boss calls him crazy and asks what he really is. With a smile, the boy tells her not to be afraid and that she can defeat him like before. The creature gets scared and asks why he is letting go of its tentacles. The young man tells her to hurry up and use her powers to defeat him once and for all. The boss is terrified by his attitude and doesn't know how to react to the provocation. With several eyes on his face, he says he will go after the scientist and eliminate him 1,000 times over. With this, the system warns that his will overcame that of the boss, and she was tamed. The system asks him if he wants to keep the boss as his ally, and he thinks about it. The creature cannot move and says that his will is too strong for her. The boy says that her will made him stronger, and he is grateful for that. With a smile, he asks if she won't play with him and decides to call his daughter. The young man then calls his daughter and tells her that she can play with the chief of the forest. The giant appears and asks who did that to her daddy, and the boy calms her down. With a thumbs up, he says that if she gets bored, she can devour the forest boss. The girl gets excited about the idea and asks who hurt her daddy. The boss says it wasn't her, but the giant knows the creature is lying. Without mercy, the giant advances and attacks the boss with all her strength in one blow. With the situation resolved, the boy runs to see how the lawyer is doing after everything. The girl wakes up and asks who he really is, because she doesn't recognize him anymore. With a smile, he replies that he is just the father of a very stubborn and strong daughter. The boy warns that it will hurt and prepares to remove the sword stuck in her chest. With her eyes shining, the lawyer stands up and seems to be very angry with him. She grabs him by the collar and throws him to the ground with impressive force. Furious, the girl accuses him of lying and of working with the blonde leader. With the sword at his neck, the jurist says she will eliminate him right there. He says that if he were an enemy, he would not have stopped her wound to save her. The young man says it was a temporary measure and asks her to remove the sword from her neck. Meanwhile, the giant plays with the forest boss in a very strange way. Sitting on the floor, he asks if the girl is okay and if she feels any change. The lawyer says she feels fine and doesn't seem to have any side effects from the scam. The boy then shows the job letter and says that the blonde leader stole her power. The girl becomes desperate and asks what she will do now without her powers. He says there is a way to solve it, but she will need to help him. The lawyer immediately agrees and asks what she needs to do to get her job back. The boy is surprised by the speed of the response and wonders if he can trust her. With a smile, he says he understands and thanks her for the trust she has placed in him. The young man wonders if the girl is pure or just foolish for trusting so easily. He then calls his daughter and asks her to come to him for a moment. The giant appears and the lawyer is impressed by the pressure emanating from the creature. With a look of surprise, the lawyer realizes that the giant is the boy's daughter. With a smile, he makes a request to his daughter, and she agrees without thinking. He asks how the boss is, and the giant says that she has already devoured her completely. The boy then says that if she spits on the boss, he will give her something tastier. The lawyer covers his eyes and tells him not to look at the scene that is about to come. With a smile, the giant opens her belly and takes out the chief of the forest from inside. The boy praises her and says she is a good girl for having obeyed the request. With her boss on the ground, The lawyer is shocked to see that she is still alive. The young man then approaches and says he has a request to make of her now. With a serious look, he asks the lawyer to eliminate the head of the forest. The creature becomes furious and tells them not to underestimate it, as it still has tricks up its sleeve. With a glint in their eyes, several plant monsters emerge to protect her. One of the plant monsters moves forward to attack, but is stopped by someone. Everyone looks around and realizes that the people who were eliminated have come back to life. The lawyer can't believe what she sees and says that the number of enemies is very large. The giant asks if she can devour them all, and the boy says there is no need. He then turns to the boss and asks if she is done showing off her powers. The creature laughs and says he will take them all with him to hell, but the boy tells her to do her best and try to survive what is to come. With an energy sphere in his hand, he says he agrees with the boss's idea. With a single energy attack, the boy turns all the monsters into plants. The revived people are also affected and turn into plant statues at the same time. The lawyer is shocked and realizes that all the monsters have suddenly stopped moving. She then asks what he did, and the boy turns to her with a strange look. The girl is startled when she sees his face and asks what happened to his eyes. He explains that this is the risk he mentioned, and his daughter compliments him on his appearance. The boy says there is a way to reduce corruption and asks for her help. The lawyer is worried and asks if he is okay after using so much power. She treats him like a younger brother, and he doesn't seem to like the idea very much. In thought, he says that his mental age is probably greater than hers. The young man then points to the boss and says that the solution is right in front of them. He explains that there are two types of dungeons, and the Black Forest is for exploration. Because of the blonde leader, the difficulty of the dungeon increased from F to C suddenly. The boy says he brainwashed others and stole the jurist's class. The giant tries to catch the boss, but she manages to escape with one of her tricks. With a smile, the young man says that the objective is to defeat the boss and get an item. The lawyer agrees with the plan and says she will help with whatever is necessary to win. With a determined look, she tells him to leave the rest to her and gets ready. The girl asks the giant to release the boss, and the giant agrees with a smile. The boss then moves forward to attack the lawyer with all her strength and speed. With a precise blow, the jurist eliminates the forest chief and puts an end to the battle. The system warns that the dungeon has been cleaned, but gives an error in identifying the lawyer. With a smile, the boy realizes that the system does not recognize her without a class. The girl celebrates the victory, and the young man thanks her for her help in the final battle. He then asks to keep his identity a secret, and the lawyer agrees. The system asks if he wants to hide his information, and he accepts the option. For his new identity, the boy decides to use the name Guardian to introduce himself. With the mission complete, the system warns that it will calculate the bonuses for them. The young man says that first of all he needs to fulfill the jurist's wish first. With his hand on the boss's body, he picks up an item and says it is the monster's core. The girl asks how to use the item and if she should eat it to absorb its power. The boy nods and says that she needs to do exactly that. The lawyer feels unwell, and it seems that the idea of eating the item did not please her. The giant asks if she can devour her, but the young man immediately stops her. With the girl in his arms, he asks if she is okay after all. He tells her to hold on tight, because he won't let her disappear there. With the core in hand, he prepares to give the item to the jurist to recover. Without thinking twice, the boy forcefully puts the core in the girl's mouth. A green energy surrounds the two, and elemental power begins to gather. A golden core appears, and the boy explains that it is worth more than 2 million. He explains that without the boss's will, the core becomes pure elemental energy. With a green aura, the lawyer floats in the air, and the boy asks how she feels. He realizes that she is being controlled by the power and becomes very worried. Without control of her body, the girl attacks him with a green energy sphere. The giant holds him and says that the lawyer did something horrible to her daddy. She then asks if she can devour the girl, but the young man reminds her of the promise. The giant says her daddy is very kind and asks what they should do. The boy notices that her aura is different and fears being devoured if he answers wrong. He then asks his daughter to protect him if the situation becomes dangerous. With the jurist floating, the young man wonders how he will be able to wake her up. He thinks about asking his daughter for help, but decides against it because it is too dangerous for her. With his hand outstretched, he tries to use his power, but the girl is too far away. The boy knows that at this rate the jurist's body won't hold out for long. He realizes that the side effects are getting worse and decides to ask his daughter for help. The young man then screams and asks the giant to help him resolve the situation. With a pointed finger, he asks her to throw it in the direction of the jurist. The giant agrees and takes it in her hand to prepare it for launch. The boy asks her to go slowly, but the giant throws him with all her strength. At high speed, he flies towards the jurist, while the giant screams for him to fly. With a smile, the young man praises his daughter and says she did a good job. With a jump, the boy hits the green energy sphere, and an explosion happens. The smoke from the explosion rises, and the young man manages to reach the lawyer in time. Amidst the smoke, he holds her in his arms and calls her name. With her eyes shining, the girl seems to be in a trance and does not respond. To wake her up, the boy decides to slap her hard across the face. The lawyer finally wakes up and asks what happened without understanding anything. With shame, she realizes that her body is covered in vines and becomes embarrassed. The boy tells her not to worry because he didn't see anything wrong. The girl notices his hand and asks if the spiritual corruption has progressed. The giant appears and threatens the lawyer, saying that she will not forgive her for the slap. The young man tells his daughter to calm down and that the girl is a friend of his. He then throws the work letter to the lawyer and tells her that she can now use it. The girl takes the letter and is surprised to see that she can use her powers again. With the mission accomplished, the boy says goodbye and tells her to keep everything a secret. The lawyer asks him to say his real name, and he ignores her. She then asks if all his secrets are because of his daughter. The girl questions him whether he is human or a monster for accepting corruption. With a smile, he says he would also like to know the answer to that question. Then the boy asks her what she thinks he really is. Her daughter says that daddy is daddy, and the lawyer doesn't understand the answer. Before leaving, the boy reveals his real name and introduces himself as Amaike Leo. With a smile, the lawyer repeats his name and seems to have enjoyed meeting him. With the dungeon cleared, the system warns that the time was 23 hours and 50 minutes. Elsewhere, people receive the news and are shocked by the speed. People celebrate when they see that the dungeon has been cleaned and take photos to document it. In the player rankings, the name Guardio appears in first place, leaving everyone curious. 10 hours later, the city is still in ruins, and the destruction is clearly visible. In a subway garage, a group of monsters gather and appear to be investigating. A two-headed monster finds a body and realizes the cut was well done. Another creature appears and says that was a horrible thing to do to an ally. A monster with exposed bones tells the other to be quiet because he is thinking. He realizes that the body has no core and that the person in charge knows the vital points. A monster woman appears and says that the creature eliminated was one of her sisters. The woman introduces herself as Felmina and says that the boss was close to the god of monsters. She then asks a one-eyed monster to reproduce the images from before. The monster agrees and says he will do anything for her without a second's hesitation. With a red beam, the one-eyed monster begins to project images. A red portal opens and the forest chief's memories begin to appear. In the image, the boy appears and tells the boss to use her powers to defeat him. With several eyes on his face, he says he really wanted to meet the god of monsters. The forest chief calls him a monster, and the image dissolves into smoke. The bone monster is shocked to see that she was eliminated by a child. With a red aura, he gets angry and says that the boy dared to insult the great master. In the image, the giant asks who hurt her daddy, and the monster woman is confused. She recognizes the giant as the queen of destruction and wonders what she is doing there. The two-headed monster says that the human is keeping the queen as his ally. The woman says they are like gods and the boy is above them because he controls her. With a smile, she says that they need a monster like him to survive. The two-headed monsters are startled by her reaction and call her name. The woman says she lost her composure and that they need to make contact with the boy. She then calls one of her allies and asks her to approach the young man. With a smile, the woman in the dress says it would be an honor to fulfill the mission. She transforms and reveals her true appearance to the leader of the monsters. Meanwhile, in the player co-op, they analyze the Guardian's information. People are impressed by his speed and wonder if he is a beta tester. A man says that even a beta tester would have a hard time clearing a mutant dungeon. The lawyer arrives and says that the Guardian cleared the dungeon in 24 hours. A woman with glasses calls her, and the lawyer asks what she wants with her. The woman introduces herself as Jenna and says she has something to ask her. With a smile, she says the topic is about the Black Forest, and whether she was there. The lawyer says she has already reported everything, but Jenna says the matter is about the Guardian. In her mind, the girl thinks about the information she has about the mysterious boy. She knows he foresaw everything and entrusted his secret to her to protect his daughter. Meanwhile, in an abandoned hotel, the boy decides to check his status to see the changes. He realizes he has reached level 5, but his class is still F, and the corruption continues. As a bonus, the boy receives a C-level mimic crystal that can change shape. He is surprised to see that he got a unique C-tier item as a reward. With his will, he transforms the crystal into a sword and is impressed by its power. The boy says he's never seen anything like it and decides to leave the bonus for later. He then takes the impure eye he got in the fight, and which contains the memories of his daughter. The young man calls his daughter, and she appears with a smile on her face, ready to listen. With a smile, he says he has a gift for her, and the girl gets excited. The boy then hands her the eye and tells her to come to him to receive the gift. With his eye on her face, he tells her that now she is complete, and the girl calls him daddy. A red aura surrounds her, and she says she feels strange with her new power. The boy is impressed by the powerful presence she emanates at that moment. He remembers that the father in the memories is not him, and is worried about her reaction. With sword in hand, he prepares for the worst-case scenario if she no longer recognizes him. But to his surprise, the giant hugs him affectionately and picks him up. With a smile, she says she loves him, and the boy realizes that his worry was in vain. Embarrassed, the boy asks his daughter to put him down immediately. He then decides to check her status, and the giant is very happy with the idea. With her eye back, she becomes a level A monster, and her power increases. Suddenly, the boy feels a strong pain, and the side effects appear again. With a green aura surrounding him, he wonders why the effects have returned. He remembers that he had control before, and doesn't understand what happened now. The young man then faints, and his daughter calls him by name, worried about him. She holds him in her arms and asks what's wrong with him. All of a sudden, fallen to the ground, the boy seems to have fainted due to the excess of power. The giant notices that he is sleeping and wonders if he has become very tired. She notices the wound on his hand and the green aura that still surrounds him. With a sad look, she apologizes for not having protected him in battle. The giant then puts him to bed and wishes him to get better soon so he can play. In a dream, the boy sees himself as the scientist, and little Suzuko asks what he does. The little girl asks what a utopia is, and the scientist pets her. With a smile, he says it's a place where everyone can live happily ever after. In her bed, the giant watches the boy sleep with a very worried look. She holds his hand affectionately and seems to be caring for her daddy. With his eyes closed, he says he remembers everything now and wakes up. With tears in her eyes, the giant says that daddy is daddy, and she is Suzuko. With a smile on his face, The boy wakes up and realizes he survived the night. Sitting on the bed, he remembers that he fainted because of the pain of corruption. Suddenly, black tentacles appear and the boy is surprised by their appearance. Several heads of his daughter appear and ask if he is okay now. Guy is shocked by the sight and wonders what the hell is going on. The giant appears upside down and calls him daddy with a smile. He notices that his hand is getting worse and that he has started hallucinating. To control corruption, he sits on the floor and begins to meditate. With his eyes glowing green, he concentrates to control his will. Little by little, the mark on his hand begins to diminish, and he feels better. The boy realizes that he can use meditation to control willpower. His daughter hugs him and calls him daddy in a very affectionate and cute voice. With a smile, she says she is hungry, and the boy doesn't know what to do. He then remembers the previous group and asks if there are any monsters left. With a smile, the young man realizes that his daughter has returned to her child form. He believes she remembered her past with her real father. The little girl says there is still some food left and opens her belly. The boy is shocked to see that there are almost no crystals left from the monsters. With a smile, he calls her greedy, and the girl nods. He then says he's going to make something delicious and takes the crystals for himself. In the city of Getsuren, the player cooperative has already been formed by the survivors. With a coat and a hood, the boy walks with his daughter in ghost form. He decides to sell the crystals on the black market to avoid attracting too much attention. In an underground place, he realizes that the black market is already very active. The boy recognizes a man named Tokora Koro, who will be the city's chief. With a smile, he approaches the man and says he wants to sell some resources. The man looks at him suspiciously and doesn't seem to like the young man's appearance. With an arrogant tone, he tells the boy to leave and says he doesn't want any problems. The young man says that if he looks, he will know that the crystals are not stolen. He then shows the green crystals he got from the Black Forest dungeon. The man is shocked to see the crystals and asks what kind of item it is. The boy explains that they are monster crystals, but the man refuses to buy them. He then picks up the item and decides to examine it with his engineering skill. The system warns that the crystal is from Kyoto of the Black Forest and is worth 10,000 gold. The man is shocked and asks how the boy got such a high purity item. With a smile, he says it's his own technique and asks if he's going to buy it. The man agrees immediately and says he will take all the crystals he has. With a handshake, they close the deal, and the boy is very satisfied. He says that with the money, he will be able to take care of his daughter's food for a while. With his cell phone in his hand, he remembers his past life and how difficult it was. Suddenly, your daughter warns you that there are some people following them closely. The boy realizes that the black market man has handed him over to a group. In his office, the man reports to his boss about the items he purchased. He says the mysterious boy may have information about the speedy player. The boss congratulates him and tells him to continue monitoring the young man closely. The giant asks if they came to get her, but the boy reassures her. He says they are after him, and his daughter asks if she can eat them. The group leader orders his men to catch the boy, and he doesn't react. With a smile, the young man starts running and tells his daughter to run away with him. The giant finds the chase amusing and asks him to wait for her to come along. The group chases them down the street and says the boy is very quick to escape. Tired of running, he says the chase is endless and decides to head to the rooftops. His daughter agrees and surrounds him with a blue aura to help him rise. With one jump, the boy flies to the roof of a building, and the group is shocked. They realize he is a player and are surprised to see him fly. The boy lands on the roof and prepares for what is to come next. He realizes that men are normal and not lackeys of the market boss. With a smile, he understands that they saw the exchange and want the crystals. From the top of the building, he calls them and asks if they want the crystals. The men are furious and tell him not to play with them. With a leap, the boy and his daughter flee the scene and leave the group behind. Suddenly, one of the men is hit by an attack, and the boy is surprised. A new group of players appears, and the young man doesn't recognize them from anywhere. He wonders who they are and why they are after the monster crystals. One of the men approaches and introduces himself with a very friendly smile. He says he is from the Black Owl Company and asks the boy to do what he says. The young man wonders what they want with him, and his daughter says she already wants to eat. In a square, a woman in a dress asks the crowd where her friends are. With a smile, she says that everyone there is her friend and uses her skill. A purple aura surrounds the woman, and she appears to be controlling people. Everyone's eyes turn purple, and they turn to the woman like zombies. The woman then turns to the crowd and glares at them with a very sinister look. She asks if anyone has seen her friends and shows a picture of some monsters. One of the monsters she is looking for is the giant who is with the boy at that moment. She says they are her best friends, and people remain entranced. With a cold look, she orders everyone to look for their friends around the city. Meanwhile, the lawyer receives a call and says she is going to the location now. She runs through the streets, but notices that people are standing still and not moving. The lawyer is surrounded by the crowd and doesn't understand what is happening there. Suddenly, she feels someone looking at her and is on alert for danger. The lawyer realizes that she is being watched by the woman in the red dress. She finds the woman beautiful and is surprised to see her walking towards her. With a smile, the lawyer decides to greet her in a very friendly way. The woman in the dress stares at her with a sinister look and continues to approach. Suddenly, the lawyer teleports away, and the woman is left confused. The girl realizes she needs to go to headquarters and ignores the woman. The woman in the dress realizes she has found information about one of her friends. She then decides to be nice to the lawyer to get what she wants from her. Meanwhile, the boy introduces himself as a salesman and says he doesn't have any good items. With a nervous smile, he says he can reveal where he gets his goods. One of the men gets angry and moves forward to attack the boy with a powerful punch. The young man narrowly manages to dodge the blow and is startled by its strength. With his hands up, he asks everyone to calm down and talk, but the man doesn't listen and continues to attack without stopping for a second. The boy says he will reveal where he gets the items, and the giant finds it all amusing. The group leader finds the young man interesting and realizes that he is not normal. With a smile, he tells his men to attack the boy without mercy. The giant is confused by the order, and the men move forward to attack, but the boy dodges all the blows with ease and provokes them. The leader then approaches and asks if he knows the fast player. The boy is surprised by the question about the fast player and does not understand why. A system screen then appears and reveals that fast player is actually his title. Suddenly, a blue aura surrounds him, and he screams in pain in his hand, wondering about the bonus. The leader lifts him into the air and reveals that he is looking for the fast player with the Guardian ID. With an evil smile, the leader asks if the boy happens to know where he is. With a blue aura, the leader lifts our hero and tells him to hurry up and tell everything he knows. He then extends his hand and promises to let the boy live if he cooperates and tells him what he wants. The young man asks why they are looking for the Guardian, and the chief reveals that it is for the secret of the dungeons. With an evil smile, our protagonist finds the attack very weak and decides to play their game. Suddenly, the giant appears behind the man and asks what he is doing with her daddy. The monster girl shows her scary face, but the leader ignores her and insists that the young man tell her everything. Then a green aura surrounds our hero, and he yells for everyone to stop this immediately. Floating in the air, the boy looks at his daughter, who seems to be very confused by the whole situation. The leader of the group is shocked by the scene, and the giant calls for her daddy without understanding anything. The leader points at him and asks what he did, and one of the men calls him a show-off. But the other henchmen notice something strange and point to the young man's face, quite frightened. The giant then hugs him and calls for his daddy, and the boy says that everything is fine with him now, He apologizes because that almost revealed his daughter and says he doesn't like to talk about that player. The leader gets angry with the answer and says the game is over and the fight will be for real. With this, men use magical amplification to increase their combat powers. With a furious look, the chief orders his men to finish off the boy once and for all. Without hesitation, the group advances at high speed towards the young man to attack him with everything they have. Our hero realizes they used a speed boost and finds the ability quite problematic. A hunger alert appears and your daughter complains, but the young man asks her to hold on a little longer. Then he faces one of the men and realizes he needs to get food for his daughter soon. The boy is surprised by the man's speed, but manages to dodge the blow by a hair's breadth. The attack is so fast that the young man is thrown back without a chance to react to the blow. Surrounded by men, he realizes that there is no way to escape and decides to fight seriously. With several eyes on his face, he creates a sphere of energy and says that now it is easier. He then launches a spiritual attack that hits all men at the same time. The leader is shocked and the others cannot move because their bodies do not obey. But the boy feels the side effects and realizes that his daughter is close to starving. He then approaches the boss and demands that he hand over a monster item to him. With a furious look, the leader tells the young man not to think that the battle is over. Then the boss activates a magic circle and prepares to use a powerful skill. The attack impresses the protagonist, who recognizes the power of the boss's ability. With a smile, he asks his daughter for help and says that the leader has plenty of food for her. Excited by the idea, the giant advances to help her father in the battle against the group. The leader then mocks the boy and asks if he has finally learned his lesson. But the giant blocks the attack with her hand, and the young man thanks her for her help. With the situation resolved, he asks the leader about the monster items he has. With a smile, he warns that if they have nothing, they will all die right there, fallen to the ground. The leader says he has items and begs the young man not to eliminate him. The boy picks up a monster arm and says it is an expensive item and asks if he can keep it. Your daughter then devours the item, and the system notifies you that her hunger level is recovering. The leader of the group is terrified by the scene and fears that the boy might eliminate them. With a smile, the young man says that they are offering 6 million for information about the player. The leader confirms the value, and our hero pretends not to have any information about it, but he doesn't want to raise suspicions and says he despises the mysterious player. With drops of sweat running down, the boss asks why he hates him so much. With his face corrupted, he reveals that his appearance is the fault of the fast player. Pointing to his eyes, he asks if the leader also wants a bonus equal to his. Terrified by the idea, the boss immediately denies it and backs away in fear of the boy. Suddenly, your cell phone rings, and the leader receives an emergency summons. Our protagonist comes closer to look and realizes that it is for all players. A red light appears in the sky, and the chief wonders what happened in the city of Gecheron. The young man finds the situation interesting and decides to go with them to see what it is like. With a smile, he turns to the leader and asks if there is a problem with that. The boss immediately denies it and says it would be an honor to have the boy with them there. Elsewhere, the city mayor watches a crack open in the sky over the city. He says it is not yet time to evacuate as the situation is under control. Unlike other times, now they have a group of strong players to fight. Our hero analyzes the rift and thinks it is an incomplete or large-scale dungeon. Suddenly, his daughter appears behind him and calls him daddy in a very calm voice. With a creepy smile, the giant says she smells family nearby. Surprised, he wonders if his daughter really has a family somewhere out there. He questions the giant, and she confirms that she smells family coming from that place. The young man finds it all interesting and decides to investigate the meeting order to find out more. The leader approaches and says that the situation in the dungeon is different from the information they have. According to the data, the dungeon has the power to annihilate everything, but he does not feel this force. The guy asks if it's okay to leak information, and the boss smiles at him. He says it's a way of apologizing for the disrespect he showed before, and the young man accepts. In his thoughts, he remembers that 2B level dungeons appeared in his past life. One of them was in the city of Naruz, and the other in Getchurin, where they are now. The leader of the group praises him for his knowledge and introduces himself as a Akatsu to the boy. Akatsu says the company has also invested in some of the players who are present there. A pink-haired B-level girl named Aura appears, catching everyone's attention. With a smile and a wave, she greets the group and seems very friendly with them. With a smile, Akotsu says that they invested in her, and the young man seems very interested. He remembers that the girl is the future star of Sakido and wonders if everyone there is strong. Akatsu then offers the boy an investment and says he will be welcome in the company. With a smile, the young man says he will consider it, but in his mind he refuses because of his daughter. Suddenly, a blonde boy approaches him and asks if he is also a gamer. With a smile, he says that his team is full of beautiful girls and invites you to be a chair. The young man doesn't understand anything and wonders what the hell the guy is talking about. Akatsu asks what he's doing, and the blonde says he's trying to recruit the boy. Our hero remembers that the blonde boy is known as the Fallen Emissary. With a smile, he asks if the young man doesn't want to be stepped on by Rara and calls him lucky. Suddenly, the pink-haired girl arrives and calls the blonde captain and finds him very annoying. Pointing to himself, he asks if she knows who he is and looks quite offended. Tired of the scene, the girl puts her hand on her face and sighs very dramatically. With a furious look, she threatens the captain and tells him to stop with the weirdness. But the blonde seems to like the threat and asks her to do it again, and the young man is shocked. The girl apologizes for his behavior and says that the boy is not right in the head. Then she asks what he wanted with our protagonist and if he invited him to the team. With a smile, he confirms and says that he feels great potential coming from the young man. A red aura surrounds our hero and his daughter, leaving the pink girl quite surprised. She is surprised by the scene and tells the captain that he must be joking with her. Akatsu then advises our hero to stay away from that man for safety. Suddenly, his daughter calls him, and he turns to see what she wants at that moment. The giant then says she found the family scent she was looking for before. The boy is surprised and wonders if the smell came from the strange blonde captain, but he quickly dismisses the idea and tries to figure out where the familiar smell came from. He then recognizes a person from behind and realizes he has seen them somewhere before. When he turns around, he sees that it is Miki, the lawyer he saved in the Black Forest dungeon. He decides to avoid people who know him and moves away from the lawyer so as not to be seen. Your daughter pulls on her sleeve and seems very excited about something. Suddenly, a woman in a red dress and umbrella passes by them with a smile. The giant calls her daddy and points to the woman, but he doesn't understand why. The boy looks and sees nothing out of the ordinary, and his daughter asks if he can't see. With a sinister look, the woman in the dress says she found who she was looking for. With a smile, he agrees to go with the group and takes his daughter's hand so they can go together. The city mayor appears on a big screen and introduces himself to all the players there. He says the dungeon is a threat to the city and needs to be stopped before it is completed. The group leader is shocked to learn that the dungeon is C tier and not B tier as before. Our hero finds the dungeon easy to explore and prepares for the challenge. The blonde captain looks at the pink-haired girl with a very confident smile on his face. The mayor then calls on all players to join forces and fight for the city. With a smile on his face, he asks how they will answer the call to battle. Everyone is transported to the C-level dungeon that looks like a fairy tale kingdom. Akatsu tells everyone to be alert and not to let any suspicious movements pass by. Our protagonist uses his power in his eyes and begins to analyze the place for dangers. He realizes the place is safe, but his daughter indicates that there is danger nearby. The giant has been acting strange since they arrived there. Suddenly, a fireball is thrown towards the group, and a huge explosion occurs. Akatsu shouts that they are under attack, and everyone goes on battle alert. He orders everyone to enter combat mode and says he will create a chance for a counterattack. But another fireball comes towards him, and our protagonist pushes it away. The young man then counters the attack with his energy, and the leader is impressed by the strength. Fallen on the ground, Akotsu thanks the boy for saving him from the surprise attack. With a serious look, our hero warns that normal methods won't work there. He then advances into combat and realizes that the enemy is approaching them. From the middle of the forest, a mysterious hunter appears and says he has found prey. Our protagonist recognizes the monster as a D-rank hunter and becomes worried. With an evil smile, the hunter says that agitated prey is his favorite. He then prepares for the hunt, and an aura of power completely surrounds his body. With his weapons, the hunter launches an attack of energy bullets towards the group. Our protagonist realizes the danger and prepares for the worst that is to come. His daughter then asks if she can devour her enemies, and he says yes. With a red aura, the giant uses her ability and creates several energy tornadoes. With a smile, she seems to be enjoying the battle and launches her attack. The hunter is surprised by the counterattack and cannot react in time. He is hit hard by the tornadoes and screams in pain from the power of the blow. With a huge explosion, the monster is completely defeated by the giant. Akatsu praises the boy for his victory and says that he countered the enemy's attack. Our protagonist doesn't understand anything and looks at Akatsu with a confused expression. With a smile, the giant devours the monster, and the young man says he will go through with it. Akatsu says he can't compare to him and lets him keep the monster's remains. Looking at the castle, he asks the young man what they should do next. The boy thinks his daughter's condition is unstable, and exploring the forest is a risk. He decides to meet up with other teams, because someone must know the route to the location. Akatsu agrees with the idea and says they need to take good care of the young man. In his thoughts, he knows he needs to build a good relationship with the boy. Elsewhere, Akatsu's boss tells him to keep an eye on our protagonist. The boss says that the young man knows his secret and that this is only temporary. Akatsu then asks if he should plan to eliminate the boy, and the boss questions his ability. He says the young man knows too much and his job is to find out who is behind him. With a red aura, the boss threatens Akatsu and says he will be discarded if he is useless. Back in town, the dungeon rift begins to become active and more unstable. The mayor's assistant warns that there is new activity in the rift and asks for a report. She informs that 6 teams of 10 people are working to clear the dungeon. The situation is under control, but there have already been some fatalities during the mission. Suddenly, Lawyer Mickey appears and calls for the mayor and his assistant Jenna. With a determined look, she asks to be let into the dungeon to help. The mayor denies it and says she is a valuable resource and should be on standby there. In her mind, the lawyer knows that our hero is in the dungeon and fears an incident. She decides to use Luca's story to warn about a possible imposter in the dungeon. The lawyer warns that the boss may undergo a change, and the dungeon may appear earlier than expected. Back at the dungeon, the blonde captain asks if Ra has discovered anything about the place. Sitting on it, the girl complains that her back is at its limit, and the others laugh at the scene. With a furious look, she tells the captain to shut up and reminds him that he asked for it. She then focuses and activates her detection ability to look for something. Waves of pink energy spread through the forest in search of what she is looking for. Your ability finds a group of hunters hidden in the trees of the forest. With her eyes glowing, she launches a spiritual attack to eliminate them all at once. The pink attack hits the hunters hard, and they scream in pain from the blow. Lying on the ground, one of the hunters wonders what the hell that attack was. One of the girls asks if she's okay, and Rara says she needs to rest a bit. She says she used a lot of power and the place has a different feel than usual. Holding a stuffed rabbit, she says she wants to hurry up and see her sister. In her mind, she remembers a little girl who gave her the rabbit as a gift. The girl says that her daddy taught her how to make the rabbits and asks if Rawa is okay. In her imagination, she sees the little girl and the woman in the dress together with a man. With an evil smile, the man says he found them first and that they are his. Back to reality, Arai is irritated by the memory and seems very determined to fight. With a furious look, she draws her sword and prepares for the battle to come. With a pink aura, she says she is now at full strength and tells the group to advance. The blonde captain laughs at the scene and wonders who the real leader of the team is. Elsewhere in the forest, the woman in the red dress floats on a dark power. With a purple aura, she moves forward and seems to be looking for something or someone nearby. She says she's back and that the cost was high, but it was worth it. Looking at her dress, she complains that her clothes are a mess after all. She then comes across a group of defeated players in the middle of the forest. With an evil smile, she extends her hand towards the bodies lying on the ground. A purple energy surrounds the players, and they begin to slowly rise up. One of the men wakes up, and the woman asks if he is not already dead at that moment. With her power, she revives all the players and invites them to meet her friends. Suddenly, she stops and looks to the side, as if she sensed something nearby. A huge explosion happens, and the woman is surprised by what she sees. A group of players appears and realizes that the enemies are very strong and powerful. A mysterious hunter says it's time for a hunt, and his companions appear. The C-rank hunter captain introduces himself and asks who will be the next to die. He then advances towards a player and attacks him with his weapon, without mercy. With a huge explosion, the player is completely defeated by the hunter captain. With a look of hatred, he turns and looks for his next prey to hunt. Terrified by the scene, one of the men turns around and sees a silhouette behind him. Our hero tells him to calm down because compared to his daughter, that is nothing. With the giant sleeping on his back, he hopes she wakes up soon to help him. The hunter says they are unlucky to have crossed his path that night. Suddenly, a new creature appears and attacks the hunter captain without any warning. The hunters says the little creature has lost its patience and they will be its dinner. Akatsu asks what to do, and our hero tells him to focus on the main hunter. The hunter tells the creature to eat as much as it wants and orders it to attack without mercy. With glowing red eyes, the monster opens its mouth and prepares to attack. With incredible strength, the creature begins to suck up everything in front of it. Our protagonist orders Akatsu to aim at the monster's mouth to try to stop it. But Akatsu is pulled into the air and realizes he can't use his spiritual power. With no other option, our hero decides to use his ace up his sleeve to resolve the situation. He transforms his sword into a bow and prepares for a powerful attack. With a green energy arrow, he hits the monster squarely and makes it retreat. The wind pressure is so strong that the young man is thrown backwards by the impact. Suddenly, the woman in the red dress holds him in her arms and greets him. Our protagonist doesn't understand anything and wonders who that woman is. The hunter captain is irritated by the interference, and the woman looks at him with contempt. The young man realizes that the hunters are still alive and prepares for battle. Furious, the hunters advance towards the woman and call her a busybody. She then offers to eliminate the hunters for our protagonist without hesitation. With a determined look, the woman says she will do anything the young man asks. Our hero is startled by her attitude and wonders if she is referring to his daughter. With a smile, he realizes that he can use the woman to defeat the hunters. He then asks her to take care of the hunters, and the woman gladly accepts. She introduces herself as Amdol, a member of the Apparition Association, and hopes to get along with him. With a purple energy attack, the woman eliminates one of the players she revived. The other revived players are left confused and are then eliminated. The leader of the revived players calls her a friend and asks how he can help her. With an evil smile, the woman looks at the players and calls them friends. She then asks them to take care of the other companions, and they obey immediately. The hunter captain orders his men to retreat and prepare for combat. One of the revived players attacks a hunter and screams in pain from the blow. Back in the city of Getsuran, The mayor walks worried about the situation. He knows that the lawyer Mickey also entered the dungeon and hopes that everything works out. Suddenly, your assistant Jenna comes running in, says she has some serious news. She reveals that the players registered as dead all revived at once. The mayor is shocked by the news and cannot believe what he is hearing. Back in the dungeon, the revived players attack the hunters and call them friends. The hunter captain is surrounded by the revived players and calls them friends. The woman in the red dress welcomes the new friends she has revived. Our protagonist wonders if the revived players are actually alive. With an evil smile, the woman confirms that they are alive because they are friends. Akutsu and his group realize that the woman has the power to manipulate the dead. Our hero turns to Akutsu and pretends not to know what he is talking about. With a drop of sweat, he realizes that the group cannot see the woman. The woman then offers to help him with anything else he needs. He asks why only he can see her and what she did with his men. With a smile, she says she didn't do anything and offers to make everyone his friends. Our protagonist refuses the offer, and the woman starts laughing at his reaction. He doesn't understand what she wants and asks if there is something she wants from him. With a smile, the woman says that she already has what she wanted from him at that moment. She approaches and says that what she wants is our protagonist's friendship. With a seductive look, she says that friendship is the most important thing there is. Our hero is happy with the proposal but realizes he has become a puppet. Suddenly, your daughter yawns and seems to have woken up from a deep sleep. With a smile, she says her stomach is full, and the boy is happy that she woke up. The woman in the dress approaches and greets the giant in a very friendly way. His daughter repeats the greeting, and our protagonist is surprised by the reaction. He remembers the woman in the square and realizes she was referring to meeting again. Akutsu asks what to do, and if they should head to the fortress in front of them. The boy knows that his daughter's condition is still unstable, but is not concerned about her safety. He fears that Akutsu's group could be annihilated if they advance without a plan. According to rumors, there are 4 very strong knights in the castle of that dungeon. He then decides to use the woman in the red dress to help them clean the castle. With a smile, he approaches her and asks her to guide them to the castle. The woman accepts the request with pleasure and says that everyone there should help too. The group then advances towards the castle, following the woman in the red dress. With crows flying over them, the castle looks very scary and dangerous for everyone. The castle's Gothic architecture imbues a sense of fear and mystery in the air. Inside the castle, piles of gold coins and jewels shine throughout the hall. At a casino table, several wolf-like monsters are playing cards. Suddenly, a giant werewolf and Little Red Riding Hood appear and attract attention. The system reveals that both are C-Pies-level monsters and look quite dangerous. With a smile, the werewolf says that sucker number 1 has already entered their castle. He reveals that team number 2 was eliminated and team number 3 mysteriously disappeared. With the arrival of the lawyer Mickey, the werewolf says that they now have 5 suckers. Our protagonist is sucker number 4, and the werewolf decides to bet on him. With an evil look, he says that whoever wins the bet will have rights over the human team. The werewolf shouts that the winner of the bet gets the human's brain and tells everyone to bet.